well. So here we go.
Thank you, Matthew. Welcome to all of you, our new members, to the Oregon City Arts Commission. Yes, it's back. The Oregon City Arts Commission 2.0. It's back, and after 15 years, we are very pleased to be celebrating the arts in this way once again. We want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this and stepping forward to serve in this capacity. Let's call the roll. Emma Lugo.
Here.
Mary Andrews.
Present.
Josh Planton.
Here.
Jean Woodward.
Here.
Selena Jones.
Yep, right here.
Tammy Jo Wilson.
Here.
Karen Burk.
Here.
I hope I pronounced that right. Tima Carlson.
Present. Tima Carlson.
Tima.
Tima.
And Tristan Andrews.
Trieste here.
Yes, Andrews. I love Tris though.
I know it's hard. I don't mind.
Thank you for coming, all of you. The arts, I just wanted to, you all have seen the agenda. And are there any anything that you'd like to add to the agenda, or anyone has an issue with the agenda at this point? And if we don't, through general consensus, we can adopt the agenda. We can do that by show of hands. All those in favor? First of all, let's have a motion.
I move that we accept the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been properly moved and second that the agenda be adopted as presented. All those in favor, please show your hands. Thank you. The agenda is adopted. The Arts Commission is actually a body of advisors. It's an advisory board, and it advises the commission, which is actually a board of directors. The Arts Commission is not a board of directors, but an advisory board. It advises the commissioners. It also works with staff, and it also is an advocate on behalf of the arts. And that's why it's so wonderful that we're meeting here today after so long. It's been 15 years since the last meeting of the Oregon City Arts Commission. The Arts Commission also can solicit funds to help supplement the work of the Arts Commission. So there are a number of things that the Art Commission is and can do, but this commission, unlike commissions in the past, has a little bit more muscle in the sense of resources available to it to promote the arts, and we'll get into that in a few moments. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Matthew, which we will start with the election of officers, a chair and vice chair. The floor is open for nominations.
Great. Actually, before we do that, I just need to make sure that we don't have any public comment.
Oh, thank you.
A couple members of the public did request to participate in the meeting. I do not see them here, but I just do need to make a point of we have a space for public comment. Since we don't have any and we have not received any in written form, we can go on to the next item in the agenda, which is the election of officers. What that simply is a chair, and as James said, and a vice chair. They will be serving for the remainder of the calendar year and through the January 2022 Arts Commission meeting, at which point there will be another election for a one-year term for each of those.
And the reason we're doing it once again is that I think all of the other commissions they start electing officers in January, and we're simply trying to get on a schedule like the other boards. So the people serving as chair and vice chair will be doing it simply for only 2 months. And then the commission can vote to extend those individuals or vote someone else in. It's solely up to you.
Can you please describe the responsibilities?
Yeah.
The response.
So the role of the chair and the vice chair primarily will be the chair to work with staff to set the agenda and conduct the meeting. So normally James or I would not be conducting these portions of the meeting. It would be up to the chair, and then the vice chair for the Arts Commission would simply serve as an alternate for that chair. So in case the chair couldn't make the meeting at this point. There are roles and responsibilities as described in the bylaws of the Arts Commission, but several of those bylaws are out of date, or we are unable, various reasons, to comply with them as a city. And so one of my recommendations later in this meeting would be to you, the next meeting is to draft new bylaws or make edits. So just know there are maybe some additional roles in those bylaws as well. And you'll be able to dive into those over the next month or two and change or edit as at your pleasure.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, Matthew, let's go with the, are there any nominations from the floor? Don't be shy.
I'm interested in the vice chair, I guess.
All right. Let's start with chair though. Well, since you're interested in that, since we have a volunteer for chair, vice chair. I almost promoted you by mistake. For vice chair, is there anyone else that would like to volunteer for vice chair?
I'd be willing to volunteer for chair just for one meeting. That's it.
Okay, we have two. There's two and then we'll re-elect in January. Could you stretch it out to 2?
Okay, for 2. Yeah, sure. 2 meetings. Just 2 meetings.
Thank you. Okay, then now we have a nominee. So let's continue on with the vice chair. Are there any other nominations or volunteers who want to be vice chair? Seeing none, then we'll close the floor for vice chair. And well, first of all, do I have a motion to close the floor?
I move we close the floor for vice chair and accept Tima Carlson.
Yes.
Were you the one? Yeah, for vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Been properly moved in second that we close the floor and that Tima Carlson will serve as the vice chair for the Oregon City Arts Commission. All those in favor, please show by hands. It is unanimous. Congratulations, Tima.
Yeah, we'll need a motion for the chair as well, too.
Right.
Preferably someone separate from the chair themselves.
And Emma has volunteered to be a chair. Are there any other volunteers that want to be considered for chair? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to close the floor for further nominations.
I'll motion to have Emma serve as 2 meetings for chair.
I second.
It's been properly moved in second that Emma Lugo be the chair for the Oregon City Arts Commission for the next 2 months. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Congratulations, Emma. It's all yours.
It's on. Okay. I guess we'll just follow the agenda then. I was not prepared for this. Can I get help from staff with the agenda?
Sure.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, and don't worry, for folks going forward, right, as chair and vice chair, staff will be there working to support you as well. So it's not all on you all as well. So the next item on the agenda is a staff presentation on past Arts Commission activities.
Great. Let's go to that then.
All right, that's gonna come from me here. So give me 1 second to get screen sharing going. All right, can you all see this? All right, great, I see a thumbs up. Let's see. Great, you all see this and you don't see the notes below it? Great.
Yes, we can see it.
Sometimes we end up showing you our talking points via Zoom, so that's a good point. So I'm just going to go over. So once again, I've met all of you before virtually, some of you in person. I am Matthew Weintraub. I'm the tourism program specialist here at the City of Oregon City. And before I go into this, I should also let folks know that I actually will be leaving my role the city here next Tuesday on the 2nd of November. But you are in very good hands with James Graham, Economic Development Manager, and also Ann Griffin, who's our Economic Development Specialist. They'll be taking kind of over the role of intern until I get my position filled. I've been offered and accepted a role as the Deputy Administrator of the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation. So I'll be heading down to Reno, Crystal City, mid-November, but I'm really excited for that. But definitely sad to be leaving Oregon City here, and a little sad to leave all of you. I know everyone here is extremely excited about this opportunity, and I'm happy that we could kick this off before I left. Just want to let folks know, and I'll be around until the next Tuesday. So the Arts Commission overview is just we. In conjunction with our city reporter's office, did a little dive into the past meeting minutes and some of the notes around the Arts Commission over the past several decades, and figured we would provide that to you here just in a quick PowerPoint. There's a lot of text, but you will get copies of this afterwards as well, so you can go through, but just kind of an overview of what has happened in the history of the Arts Commission as well, just to kind of set the table for your work. So in 1991, the Oregon City Mural Society formed as a nonprofit. And then in 2000, the City Commission did formally create the Oregon City Arts Commission. Please note, it is arts plural and not art commission. So feel free to correct anyone that you see using the word art in singular there. Going forward, that is in the city code there. So in 2001, the commission adopted bylaws. That's a little different than the majority of other advisory boards and commissions. They don't necessarily all have their own bylaws, and those bylaws are separate of the municipal code that has created the Arts Commission as well. So what that really just means is you kind of have two documents you have to adhere to and update from time to time as well. So, and then at the end of December, they developed policies for a public art program, and that was adopted the following year by the City Commission. Staff will be providing you that policy. Just didn't want to provide you all this documentation ahead of the first meeting, in case we had a little bit of attrition from just information overload before this meeting. But staff would recommend that the commission review the existing public art policy. And if you all would like to consider making changes or make changes, there is a process to recommend that to the City Commission, and have to go through the City Commission. But please do review that in case you all would like to do that. I know there's how we think about art has maybe changed in the city over the past 18 years. So there may be some needs to update as well. Arts Commission met 9 times in 2003. And amongst those meetings, they developed a concept for a percent for arts, which was out of, I believe it was like development fees, a certain percentage of that would go to art and the creation of art or public art, potentially to be managed by the city or the Arts Commission. And it worked with putting together the first city art fair, which Trieste, I'm not sure if that is the predecessor to the art fair that currently goes on, but
Yeah, for the first 2 years, it took place over at Carnegie Hall, and then it grew out of that space, and it was the next 3 years over at the end of the Oregon Trail. And then people went and came and went and came and went, and it kind of dissolved at that point. So it was like in a 7-year hiatus until we started it again in 2016, back at the end of the Oregon Trail. So that was kind of the history on that.
okay, great. And then also that year, there was some issues with attendance, and we'll see how those played out on the next slide. In 2004, there were some active committees, continued involvement in public art, and the art fair started to make some kind of smaller crafts for holiday season, magnets, greeting cards. They're involved in that. And work to find art pieces for the 7th Street corridor as well. So there was additional work and engagement with the City Commission in 2004 as they continued to discuss that percent for arts ordinance. And the idea was to bring it before the commission after the November 2004 election, either at the end of that year or 2005. In 2005, 3 members did resign, and there was another one of the art fairs, and the last meeting of the Arts Commission appeared to be October 21st, 2005. So it stuck around for about 3.5 years. In 2006, former Mayor Alice Norris met with remaining members and did kind of put it on hold a bit, the Arts Commission as well. So let's see here. Sorry, let another staff member in. In 2011, a few of the existing commissioners volunteered to work to reestablish it, but that was put off. In 2013, there were some discussions around that, once again, that percent for arts ordinance. And then there were also discussions around reestablishing the Art Commission, but there didn't seem to be enough interest at that time. And that is the history of the Arts Commission. Do folks have brief history? So do folks have any questions?
Is there a carryover balance from 2005?
That's a great question. Not that I am aware of, but I have not specifically asked about that. So what I can do is commit to asking around and see if there is any existing funding from past and let folks know.
And then I have a question also. I know that it was a proposal at one point for that funding, which was, I think, 3.5% of any new capital project. Was that actually ever instituted for funding, or was that just never signed or officially approved?
Right, so that was never officially approved.
Okay.
I believe it sounds like it may have been discussed. The discussion was the Arts Commission to recommend it to the commission, but before that happened, the Art Commission kind of disbanded. And our Public Works Director, John Lewis, did make a presentation to the commission about what that would entail to get it instituted, but it looks like no further action was taken.
Yeah. Do you know if the art fair had any funding from the city at all?
I don't, but I assume since it was produced in part by the former Arts Commission. There was some connection. I can go back through the detailed minutes and see if there's any reference to that. So,
Okay.
And believe me, if there was any money, I would have found it.
I believe that, James. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
I would have found it for sure.
So will we be
would the,
forwarded? Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Go ahead, Emma.
Okay, thanks. So with the process of reinstituting a percent for arts discussion, would that be something that would be the work of this commission if we wanted to do it? And what would the mechanism be by which this would happen? Would it be a vote during a general election, or would it be an adoption of a resolution by the city commission?
yeah, so first steps there is I'm going to send you all a lot of this information tomorrow, but it will be that the information on that percent for arts. I believe the first, I guess my staff recommendation to you all would be to review that. And if you believe it is ready to go, then a vote that it should then be recommended to the city commission. If you believe it needs to be adjusted in any way, you can go through that process, work through that, and then vote that you support this, or a majority support or don't support, and then either recommend or don't recommend to the city commission. At that point, probably you would have further discussions with James Graham and other staff members around or through that process, through the feasibility of that, both to implement it and politically, right? I would recommend potentially a work session with the city commission to walk them through the concept as well. So there's a few kind of, yeah.
Matthew, I think this is the appropriate time to let the Art Commission know that I had mentioned that earlier in opening that this commission has a little bit more resources than in previous Arts Commission. And so the resources that you have available to you is $40,000. And that $40,000 is to be used to promote the arts as an industry in Oregon City. Not any one particular person or one organization, but the industry itself. And so you have that, that's a pretty good start. And you have that available to you over the next 2 years. So you're not starting a completely empty pocket. You have resources to begin with.
James,
I just want to make sure we mention that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I just note that $40,000 comes out of the tourism promotion fund within the city. It's transient lodging tax dollars. So there are some stipulations with how you use it, but generally speaking, using it to promote the arts would fall within those guidelines.
Thank you. Are there further questions?
So we'll be provided or given access to the past minutes?
Yes, I can do that as well. Yeah.
And you'll be given minutes for every meeting that we have this point going forward. I think that's what you meant.
No, like the previous from 2005 to
Okay.
1991.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's what I thought you meant. Yeah.
It sounds like one of the first items of business for this commission would be to review the past bylaws and just kind of review them and see if anything needs to be updated. So I would definitely recommend that be put on the agenda for the next meeting. Does that sound like a reasonable proposal? Yeah. Okay. I don't want to like kind of impose myself in the meeting, but I feel like something that we haven't really done yet is get to know each other. And I wonder, even though it's not in the agenda, I wonder how people feel about spending a few minutes just kind of going around and having people introduce themselves, and just maybe just so we kind of know who we're talking to. Is that at all a reasonable suggestion? Yeah. I mean, if we can just keep the conversation kind of located around why we're here, but you know, I mean, I'd love to know a little bit more about all of you so that I have some context for who I'm working with. I'll start just to kind of provide an example. And if, I mean, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'd like to at least offer maybe 5 or 10 minutes to do this, just so we kind of get to know each other. So I'll just provide one example of how maybe that might happen. My name is Emma Lugo. I live in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I've been a practicing artist for 35 years. I studied at the University of Minnesota. I studied studio art, and I'm primarily a painter. And my goal of being on this commission is to really support a revitalizing of the Oregon City arts community. Who else would like to go?
I'll go next. My name's Tristan Andrews. I'm the current president of the Three Rivers Artists Guild. I've been a guild board member for, I think the past, I want to say 5 years, a guild member for over 6. And I've chaired the Oregon City Festival of the Arts for the past 4 years and volunteered that the year before, so 5 years with the Festival of the Arts. My term as president is ending at the end of this year, so in December. And I have also gave my notice that I will not be chairing the festival for next year. I just got worn out. But those are both very near and dear to my heart. So I want to make sure that those are safeguarded. I just put like a 50-page manual together of how to run the festival step by step by step. And most of our committee members have agreed to stay on for next year. But, you know, if we run into any problems, I would love to see the Art Commission be able to give some support for that. And one of my dreams for Oregon City is to have an art cultural center in Oregon City, any way, shape, or form. And I would love to have that be one of the initiatives of the Art Commission if other people agree to that. So yeah, just really eager to see a really strong art and culture in Oregon City. And I think it is starting to bubble. We were able to give a strong support to pass murals again in Oregon City. Matthew and James was a big part of pushing that through the city. We did our first restoration, which was the kickoff. We have one planned in the spring at the corner in 99 in Maine. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really good things happening in Oregon City, and I just am really grateful to be a part of that.
Thank you. Please feel free to just speak at when you feel moved to.
All right, I'll go next. My name is Selena Jones. I got my MFA in sculpture in 2011 at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. I've been back in this area for several years now, worked full-time at the Lake Oswego Festival of the Arts. I volunteer with Art in Oregon and Tammy Jo, who's on here too, for our artist residency program at the Stevens Crawford House. And I recently moved to Oregon City in 2020, so I'm a happy new resident, and I'm eager to learn about what all we can do in the arts and how I can really lend a hand in that. So hello, everyone.
I'll go next since Selena mentioned me already. I'm Tammy Jo Wilson. I live in Oregon City in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I've been in Oregon for a very long time. Also a visual artist, painter, photographer. My husband and I co-founded the visual arts nonprofit in Oregon. We're a state visual arts nonprofit. I think of us as being based out of Oregon City. This is our home, and where we think of our network starts here, so to speak. That's where our heart is and our home is, literally. And when we started our nonprofit, it was really thinking about this community. So it kind of has a special place. I've been, myself and my organization has been working with Stephen Crawford Heritage House. We have great grand plans that I won't reveal to everybody yet for the year. But I feel like the arts is definitely thriving in Oregon City, and I look forward to seeing where it goes, especially related to public art. I definitely have an interest in public art for the city, because it can really have a broad reaching benefit for the city and the residents and the homeowners, and bring people to appreciate art that had never even thought about it before. So that's me.
I can go next. I'm Mary Andrus. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am also an artist and an art therapist, and I direct the art therapy program at Lewis and Clark. I'm also a graduate from SAIC. I pursued my doctorate after getting my master's in art therapy there. And I too am committed to bringing communities together and putting in place public art that engages people to think about themselves in place, in relationship to place and to each other, and really helping to create bridges and maybe even placemaking as a way to use art to impact social change and help communities come together. Really excited to be here and excited for the potential of what we could do together. So thank you. And Tammy Jo is someone who recommended that I apply, so I'm glad to be here.
I'll go next. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Woodward, and I use she, her pronouns. And I am also kind of new to Oregon City. I moved in the fall of 2019. So not the best time to build community and connection, as you can imagine. Luckily, I had spent 13 years in the Portland area, so not totally new to Oregon. And I'm a lifelong artist. I attended the MFA program at the School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston and graduated there in 2006 before moving to Portland. And really love the Pacific Northwest and have a deep connection to plants and to art. So I started a papermaking studio some years after I moved here called Pulp and Deckle. And I still run that organization. And I also am one of the co-leaders at Stello, which is a nonprofit that is based in Portland and also in Colton, Oregon. So I'm just excited to be connecting more with folks where I live now, and to be giving back to the community in whatever ways that I can that are connected to art. So thank you, and I'm excited to work with you all.
I can go next. My name is Josh Clinton. I was born and raised in Oregon City. I am not as involved formally in the arts as most of you. It's really been more of a very big passion ever since high school, taking courses all the way through college, but nothing real professional. And I just have a passion when I travel with my work internationally. I've been able to visit a lot of renowned art museums, cultural centers, things like that. Would love to see the same developments come here to Oregon City as my home. So looking forward to working with everyone, and appreciate everyone joining this group and working together.
Hi, I'm Karen Burig, and I have lived in Oregon City for 25 years. I also live in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I am not an artist. I'm nowhere close to an artist. I do transportation planning and land use planning up at the county, but I'm very interested in art as placemaking. As Mary had said, I was involved with the intersection painting at Jefferson and 11th Street as a way to really build community and working with the neighbors. I also have been involved with the revitalization of Ladderette Park in the McLaughlin neighborhood. And one of the things that we talked about as we were trying to figure out how we can have sort of low cost investments that could last was being able to do creative things such as painting the basketball court or doing, using that as an art space. While that didn't actually happen, I definitely love the mural that is in Ladderette Park and those things that connect us to the past. And I guess another thing that I did as we were doing the intersection painting is that we needed to do a process. So I'm really kind of nerdy, techie, like I deal with public processes a lot. And so it was a way to help kind of connect and actually make it happen, because we had to work with the city and their transportation team and create something so that other people could do that too. So I really want to be able to support the arts so that people can engage with their neighbors and have ownership and enjoy Oregon City.
Well, I guess I'm last. My name's Tima Carlson, and I live in Oregon City as well in the McLaughlin neighborhood. I love art and I loved rocks, and I followed rocks and got a degree in geology, but always, and I work in the geotechnical industry, but I've always loved working with the arts and working with youth and the arts. I was an art lit volunteer and coordinator at a local elementary school, Holcomb Elementary, for about 8 years. And when my kids graduated out of that, I worked with a friend to create a nonprofit on Main Street called Soul Flags Art Community Center. And we're teaching the community the same, where we focus on an artist of the month and then create art projects associated with that artist. So anyways, I'm really happy to be part of this group. I've worked with Tristan on some events at the Oregon Three Rivers Artists Guild Festival of the Arts, doing the community project. And we're actually doing a really large community project for 99E in Main Street, where we are working on creating a mosaic of a mural, well-known works of art altered with an Oregon City landmark. So thank you.
Yeah, and we're planning our brand new mural right across the street from that, Tima. So it's going to be a little art corner. It'll be beautiful. Yeah.
My name is Ann Griffin, and I was planning just to listen all night, but after all those great introductions, this is a great group of people. I'm psyched. We got some good talent here and some great ideas. This is going to be awesome. But I just wanted to say hello. Again, my name is Ann, and I also work at the city with Matthew and James in the Economic Development Department. I help administer the Metro Enhancement Grant, and I do a lot of small business support work and other things too. But I thought I'd just pop in and say hi, and I'm excited to meet you all.
Thank you, everyone. What an amazing group of people. Looking at our agenda, I see that we have to set recurring meetings. So maybe we should do that next, since it's on the agenda.
We have one additional staff presentation about the Arts Treasure Trove program as well.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, let's go to that then.
All right. Guess who that is going to be doing that as well? That will be me as well. So I will once again share my screen. And second here. All right, I will skip the introduction, but a little about what the Arts Treasure Trove is and how it got its start. In beginning of 2020, the Economic Development Department convened a group of community members through the Oregon City Tourism Stakeholder Table. It was really designed to support staff in the implementation of the Oregon City Tourism Strategic Plan. And through that, they were developed 5 programs specifically designed to support the 4 key imperatives within the plan. And representatives of the arts community, including Trieste, were stakeholder members as well. And one of those programs was termed the Arts Treasure Trove. The concept there, that it was designed to promote and expand the enjoyment of the arts in Oregon City. So the idea there being not only visual mediums, but performing arts, auditory arts, visual arts, so many different forms. Expand those opportunities for art and culture to play an opportunity in Oregon City's visitor economy, or in other words, can Oregon City utilize the arts to attract tourists? Like how does Oregon City do it? So, and then this was designed to support a strategic plan imperative around developing and promoting existing experiences and activating new experiences as well. So how do you bring existing art to life? How do you create new art that people want to travel to see and to so far within that program, we've done a few things already. We've updated their city code, as a few of you mentioned, to allow for the painting of public art murals through a application process. Going forward, those permit applications will be reviewed and approved by you all. And I'm happy to talk a little bit about that later tonight, or let James and Ann guide you through that process as it comes. We've also, as you all are very aware, have reactivated the Oregon City Arts Commission. We've installed a Oregon City location of the Oregon Film Trail that is currently located on in the McLaughlin Promenade overlooking downtown the Blue Heron Mill, celebrating some of the iconic movies that have been filmed in Oregon City. And we are in the process of placing the existing public art map onto the traveloregoncity.com, or our tourism facing website, that we can then leverage that and drive awareness through our marketing efforts to the arts in Oregon City. And so what comes next, right? So working through some of the documents that you provided, for example, that public art policy, you can identify like those next steps in enhancing public art. The city is supporting the Art in Oregon Stevens Crawford History House collaboration through our Concierge Institute program. Hopefully there will be some greater integration with other forms of art than just the visual medium. So this is more on the staff side. And then obviously to cross collaborate with you all on the Arts Commission as well. And James did mention there is that $40,000 over the biennium. That is coming through a line item for the Arts Treasure Trove as well. So that's kind of where that money came from, as one of those implementation programs for the tourism program at Oregon City, is that the money was earmarked there. So that's just the rough overview. And then I will also hand it back over to Emma. Oh.
If I could, I'd like to also add that overall, and the bottom line is, the Arts Treasure Trove is all things art. And it is not just one activity, it's a variety of activities. One thing I just need to correct Matthew on, $40,000 is allocated to the Arts Commission itself to support the arts and the art industry. There is another $50,000 allocated to the Treasure Trove. And that's through the Economic Development Department. And that is, that's why we call it the Treasure Trove, because all things art. We want to support poetry, song, dance, as well as sculpture and paintings. By the time all is said and done, we hope that Oregon City will be a little louder and a little bit more colorful, and attract people from all over the region to see the good work that's going to be conducted here by the industry itself. So this is a wonderful time. We should celebrate our successes, learn from our mistakes, but this is a great opportunity to really promote the arts with the resources that we have to leverage with others. So, and the Arts Commission also, as I mentioned before, can be engaged in fundraising to supplement the money that we already have. And it goes into a trust, any of the funds that are raised by the Arts Commission. So I think we have a very good start in terms of this commission. And I look forward to working with all of you. And I'll turn it back over to the chair.
I do have a quick question, if that's okay, though. The 50,000 for the art treasure trove, is there any talk or any plans of how that will be distributed?
That is what we're going to be doing, is developing guidelines and program guidelines, and we want some input from the Arts Commission itself as well. But we want to develop program guidelines. And so therefore, from the economic development point of view, it will be used to supplement your efforts as well as other efforts as well.
Is the Arts Commission a 501c3 nonprofit?
The Arts Commission is not. It's part of the city government. It's actually a recognized arm of city government.
So how would the fundraising take place then?
By virtue, it's in the charter, actually. You can solicit funds as an organization.
And those funds would go into the city budget and they would be earmarked for the Arts Commission.
Yeah, it goes into a trust and you can use that money for art promotion.
Are there more questions about the Treasure Trove presentation by staff? Or discussion? It's a lot of information to take in, and it sounds like we have a lot to do, so that's great. What I saw on the agenda for the next item was to set a recurring meeting date. Could we get some staff support on that? How often is the Arts Commission supposed to meet? Are we supposed to meet monthly?
Yeah. So generally supposed to meet monthly, although if you'd like to set a more aggressive meeting schedule or less aggressive, that will be up to you. But generally we would say monthly. We have a few dates where we'd recommend for you all to do it, and that if you want to do it reoccurring the same day of the month, and that is the fourth Monday, the first and third Wednesdays, though maybe not those, and the second Tuesdays. Although I'm seeing James give me that look, and I'm having that same look as well, because that's the city commission meeting.
Right.
So why I say that is, for example, we have an HRB meeting at the same time you are meeting currently tonight. So we are not live streaming this meeting on the city's YouTube page, for example. And so while that's not the biggest hurdle, if we do eventually go back to in-person meetings, or when we do, there will, meeting space will be at a premium. And so we're hoping to not overlap any boards and commission meeting days, really. So once again, that was the fourth Monday and the second Tuesday. Could be options. That being said, if you feel it's not a barrier to completing your work, there are other dates available as well, just not the first and third Wednesdays. Yeah.
I'd like to add, Matthew, the second Tuesday of every month is the workshop for the commission.
You know what? You're right, James. The information I'm just told, those are all the days you can't meet. I'm sorry.
So you really,
was a list of, sorry, I'm reading a text here from our city recorder. I think he misunderstood my first text to him. So that's just a list of all the days that are off the table, actually.
Gotcha.
So-
Okay, great.
So-
So let's ask the commission members first. Is a monthly meeting, is that will that work for most of you? Does anyone want anything besides a monthly meeting? Okay, great. So let's talk dates then. What's a good time for people? Are there any times that definitely don't work?
Matthew, just to clarify, the days you listed are days we should not have the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I do apologize for that confusion there.
So we could do, say, a third or second Monday, just not the fourth Monday, and
Yes.
not the second Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
So what if we started with a month from today? What is this, the fourth Tuesday?
That would
Is
be,
this-
November the 23rd. That's the fourth Tuesday. Did you say Monday or Tuesday?
I was just saying the whatever today is, the 4th of this. So
Okay.
the fourth Tuesday. How does that work for people?
That works for me, but that's also going to run into the weeks of Thanksgiving and Christmas, I believe. So.
Does anyone remember when the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association? I know those are generally Mondays, but I don't remember which Monday.
I can take a look at that.
I think it's normally the first Monday of the month.
Okay, so no first Mondays and no fourth Mondays, because I know I would like to be able to have the option to attend that, and there are other McLaughlin neighborhood people here too. So I would request we not overlap with that as well.
Now, of course, when we run into holidays, we just don't have the meeting. When you run into holidays and things like that, of course, because you're going to always run into a holiday at some point along the way. Some holiday is going to come up.
Yeah, the only reason I recommended the fourth Tuesday was just because that's when we're meeting right now, and it seemed to work for the people who are here. So
Just a note, I'm not sure if this has been updated, but the McLaughlin neighborhood, the MNA website and the city page does say they meet on the first Thursday of the month.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because I missed first Thursday in Portland for their meetings. Okay. Yeah, no
So-
first Thursdays or second Fridays or.
Mondays are difficult for me because I sometimes have night meetings that I think are the first and third Mondays. So I wouldn't be able to do that. And I mean, Tuesdays generally do work fine, but I will be out of town on Thanksgiving week.
okay.
So it looks like, well, it looks like based on what you all have said, it looks like the fourth Tuesday looks good for everybody.
So it sounds like the third Tuesday as
I
well.
mean, sorry, third Tuesday, yes.
Yeah. I think both of those could be options, yeah.
Okay. Great. So how do people feel about the third Tuesday? Does that work for most people? Thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay. It looks like we have, I'll check with my vice chair, Tima. Does it look to you like a third Tuesday looks good for the
Yes.
meeting? Great, okay. Great, so we will establish monthly recurring meetings on the third Tuesday of every month. Is this a good time to meet, 7 o'clock? Okay, great. Well, there you go, staff. It sounds like we did our first work of body as a commission and we set a regular meeting date.
I have been parts of nonprofit organizations that couldn't do that after 2 hours. So congratulations.
It looks like next on our agenda is an item titled communication.
Right, so generally that would be a time for any of the commissioners to provide to provide communications to one another about any activities you're involved in, any opportunities, or just ideas for future meetings as well. So, yeah.
Great. So maybe a little bit like what we did when we were doing introductions.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe based on like what's going on in your life or in in the art world that you want to tell other people about and bring to their.
I would love to hear more, not necessarily an intro of each person, but what maybe their goals or ideas or thoughts or hopes and dreams for this art commission are. I know I would love to share them, and I'm curious to know, just as the beginning, kind of floating ideas, just so we can all kind of know what our interests and our priorities and our thoughts are going forward. Briefly, if ever we could do it briefly.
Yeah, let's do that. Whoever's moved to, please.
I have a quick question. Is there somebody that's taking notes of any of these meetings, or is it recorded?
It's being recorded.
So I am recording it, and then I will also be producing a set of minutes that will be. Those minutes will be distributed to all of you, and then you will have to approve them at each subsequent meeting as well.
But in the future, we'll need a secretary to be recording the minutes, or?
So in the bylaws, actually, it does put forth for a secretary. However, generally for advisory committees like this, it is the role of the staff liaison to take the minutes. Secretary will kind of approve them or review them. So if you would prefer to elect the secretary that takes the minutes, I'm going to speak for Anne and James. I bet they would love that. But also just know that kind of it's penciled in that staff would be doing.
Yeah, I would say that's normally a staff function. If you would like to, elect a secretary, it'll be something like an honorary role, so to speak. But they certainly would have the option to review the minutes for accuracy. But we wouldn't want to saddle you with taking the minutes yourselves.
Just a note, I did check the bylaws earlier during the meeting tonight. And the secretary is the only officer that is actually listed in the bylaw itself, having roles, and that is just the minutes. So that might be something to review and potentially change if you so wish at further meetings.
Okay, great. So we have two items on the floor at the same time. One is this question of taking notes, and the staff has presented the option that we could elect a secretary if we want. And the other item that we have is sharing our hopes and ideas that has been presented. So let's just first ask if we want to elect a secretary, so that for the next meeting, if we want to relieve staff of that, or if we want to just let staff do it. Is there any discussion on that?
I know it can be very difficult for somebody that wants to participate in this to participate and be a note taker. So I think that's something that we should consider going forward. And I think that's why staff probably have done it in the past, because it is really difficult to participate fully if you're doing that. So my vote and my consideration would be to have a staff person to allow our members to participate.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion on this item? Okay. I'm hearing none, since we already have someone taking notes. If someone really feels moved to make a motion that we elect a secretary, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, if we could move on to talking about the other item, could you please remind us one more time, say it exactly how you wanted us to discuss the item that you brought up? Was it talking about our hopes for the commission?
Sure. Yeah, I was just requesting a bit of a conversation about what our hopes, our thoughts, our plans. I feel like we all kind of came to this with, dreams and ideas. And I think it would be nice to be able to share those. I know I have things that I would like to bring up and things that I didn't even know about, like the percent for the arts that that wasn't on my radar until tonight. And I think that is super exciting. I'll just go first and I'll try to be very brief, and you guys, like our intros, can play off of that. One of the many reasons that I joined, obviously public art is something that we've talked about a lot. And it's something that is really important to me. And it also really important in a contemporary way to rethink how public art is managed, administered, and made available to the community. And so I think I really look forward to looking back at how our public art program was done in the past and rethinking how we do it in the future. And that's something that's going to be big in my mind. Another thing big and upfront in my mind is going to be building a relationship with the tribes, because the Confederated Tribes have a big piece of Oregon City, and they're going to be, we need to have a good relationship with them, and they should be on this commission. And so I think reaching out to them and having a conversation and making sure that we establish that relationship right away. That's another thing that's up front and center for me. Let's see what else. I'll try. Let me think of just one, see if I can think of one more. I don't know. I'm a visual arts person, but I try to be, remember arts with an S, and think broadly about that. So I think for the commission, obviously we have, Stevens Crawford, but we are also thinking about the Stevens Crawford House as an arts and culture center, so that we can think more broadly about benefiting the city as a whole. And so it'll be interesting to see how that can be, I don't know, just to see where it goes. So anyway, those are my hopes and dreams, at least a few of them. I'm gonna tag Selena to go next.
I just got done driving 10 hours today, so I think Tammy Jo did a great job. I like everything she said.
And please feel free to speak as you feel moved.
Well, one thing that I would love to see is like an international world arts festival, where it be song, dance, and physical art. I'm Lebanese, of the World Lebanese Cultural Union, and I don't know if my audio is still working or not, but it would be wonderful to, bring, all the different cultures into a large art venue.
I'll go at one of my dreams that Tammy and Jo and I have talked a lot, although I am in strong support of the Stevens Crawford House. I would love to see a large art cultural center that integrates performance art and music, and something like the Multnomah Art Center in Multnomah Village would be an amazing thing. And I've even put the word out into a few people's ears that are involved with Barkley School. And I've had some people say, hey, we need to talk. So that would be just a big dream of mine, to have a center that has workshops and studios and every kind of art you could possibly think of. And my other dream is I love community art events. And just to do some surprise community events in Oregon City, so that Oregon City becomes the town that, hey, I wonder what's going on. And they check our website and find something fun and exciting to do. So I've even had a conversation just a couple of days ago about having an art walk that was not only visual arts, but have performances in vacant retail space that is available, and have a night that the community can just enjoy every kind of art that's out there, whether it's music or dance or performance. Just have a big community art event night, and how much fun that would be. So those are my two dreams.
I will echo what everyone else has said so far and add that also art education, especially for youth, and helping establish programs that will lead to, the youth of Oregon City being able to express themselves creatively and learn that kind of ability to think creatively in whatever they do. So that's one of my biggest priorities with this group.
So I'll just build on what Josh said in the sense of connecting with the youth. And while I don't have many big dreams, I know that through my experiences, Case was doing some we were trying to get different people involved in Ladderette Park, and Case was doing some great metal work and with students there, but then the process has made it really difficult to be able to have their art be involved in the park. And so I think another thing that I just want to make public art more accessible just to the average person to allow them to make it happen.
I want to echo what Karen had just mentioned there, making the arts accessible, equitable, and bringing communities together to create healing and connection. And being that we are at the end of the Oregon Trail and we have the Grand Ronde, that whole waterfront area, I think it's a really important opportunity to honor Indigenous peoples and the land that we're on and acknowledge the harm that has been done to where we are today, and really be progressive and thinking critically about how to heal and how to bring communities together and how public art can change perceptions and help people kind of move forward and create community. So, and I forgot to mention that I'm also a resident of Oregon City, and my daughter goes to the John McLaughlin Elementary School. So.
These are such beautiful ideas, and I'm so excited to explore them. Like, it's really exciting just to be listening and hearing. And to add a little, I guess, of what I've been thinking about from when I'm wearing my visual art hat and not my arts administrator hat, because I wear both, I'm really thinking about, like, how are artists surviving, and how can we make those connections with artists and community and make sure that people feel like there's a thriving future for them here, that they belong, and that it's not like they have to go to Portland or somewhere else to get attention and to be successful in the arts. So I think that's something that, while I'm really engaged in community building a lot, I'm also thinking about that community from the side of the individuals and the groups that are creative and supporting, and not just visual artists, but across all of the arts. How are dancers living in Oregon City? How are theater performers living here? So I'm excited to think about that some.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to speak who wanted to speak? So there's a lot there to process, and I would definitely encourage, I believe that we all have each other's contact information. So, we don't have to wait until next month. If you want to talk to someone who said something that really moves you or that really interests you, you don't have to wait till next month to talk to them again. At this point, I might check in with staff and see if it's time for us to adjourn, or if there's more business that we should do for our first meeting.
That's kind of all we had scheduled for your first meeting. Just didn't know how long it would take folks to get through things, and also just want to throw a bunch of information out at you at one time. I will just say one bit of advice is since you are a appointed body of the city, if you do want to reach out to others in the on the Arts Commission, please don't get 5 of you together at once, because that's technically a meeting. And then we'll have violated public meeting laws. So one bit of advice.
Yeah,
As much as I'm sure you all would love to be in the same place at the same time to discuss your passions. Just heads up there.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think 2 is, I think 2 is okay. 3 is you breaking public law. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
So-
so
Gather, we just can't do group emails. Is that correct?
If you're in the same place, if you're all in the grocery store at the same time, because that's when you went shopping, you're not going to get in trouble. But if you coordinate via email and 5 of you get together, that's when we get in trouble. Yes, and or a group email to everybody. Yes.
so the magic number is less than 5.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what the line is, but you know, it's always good to stay out of the airspace of the line as well. So
If I'm friends with 5, 6 people in the committee, I have to leave somebody out every time. Somebody has to get non-invited. Sorry, whoever that's gonna be.
Matthew, I think it's 3 because 5 is a quorum on this committee, so it's got to be 3.
what's what I'm saying? So you could have you could have 4.
So 4, yeah.
Yeah. But that's why I was. But the 3 is like we don't need to get closer to 5. That's good.
Small parties, okay.
Just got to be
So,
careful.
So between this meeting and the next meeting, I'd like to request that staff and at least the chair and vice chair get together to set the agenda for the next meeting. Is that a possibility and for anyone else on the commission who would like to meet? Is that a possibility for us to meet with you to set the agenda for the next meeting and to kind of go over
Yes.
that process? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And we'll be in touch.
Okay. And then anyone else who wants to join, because, you know,
Then we can't have too many people. We can't have too many people. Then it'll be in a meeting.
oh, that's right. Okay.
You got to. So I would suggest. I would recommend that the chair and the vice chair.
Okay.
meet after that.
All right. The chair and the vice chair then. And if somebody else wants to join, please let us know. We'll figure it out. So is there anything else people have pressing concerns that they want to make sure that are we comfortable convening the meeting for today? Okay. Well, if that's the case, if there's no last words anyone has, I'd like to offer, then we will convene the meeting and meet again in 1 month. And between now and then, you'll get minutes from today's meeting. And again, I do encourage you all to reach out to each other. There's been so many great ideas shared here. And in the meantime, the chair and the vice chair will meet with the staff to work on the agenda for the next meeting. And please send in your input if there's anything really pressing that you want to be at the top of the agenda for the next meeting. And you know, hopefully we'll get into some business at the next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
You've all been very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Great job, Emma.
Thank
Emma,
you,
just a Robert's Rules of Order. You do have to motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thanks. Does anyone move to adjourn the meeting?
I'll motion to adjourn.
A second.
Been properly moved.
Removed. All in favor? All right, looks like it passes. Well, all right, everybody, thanks again for your commitment to this process and to your volunteers and in service to the city. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.